Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leaders Walk podcast. Today, for episode 236, I have a fascinating guest, my new friend Lei from beautiful Hawaii. We met once again to a fantastic serving circle about 2 weeks ago. We had a wonderful chat last week. And wow, as soon as I heard Lei speak, even in the 2 minutes inside the serving circle 2 weeks ago, I knew I had to talk to her because she's doing, she mentioned something I've been absolutely captivated for the past 3 years, and that is near-death experiences, NDEs. That's something I've been captivated by over the past 3 years, anything to do with that, past life readings and all that. So yeah, I knew I had to have her on the podcast. So we had a wonderful chat last week. And then just a nutshell about her, she's had not one, not two, but three not only NDEs, but also she had something that I haven't even heard about that exists, was possible, and that is shared death. And that's something that she had, and she will explain to her in detail later. When I heard that, I was like, wow, I was beyond fascinated. It was very touching, very emotional as well. So as you will see in this episode. And yeah, she has an incredible story to tell, and she's here today to share it with us. And she's also working now, she's using those gifts from those experiences that she went through now to help other people who have been through traumatic experiences to overcome them and to live their dreams. And as a matter of fact, what she's doing now, she's an intuitive life coach helping younger adults to work through life-changing traumas in order to find their dream life, their purpose, and their mission, a more fulfilling life in this world. So yeah, she's also into Hawaiian folk culture. And she's got a tremendous story. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm very happy to have her because you will see this will be a beautiful conversation, very on a topic that is not well understood, but once you really understand it, it opens your eyes to what really is going on and what this life is all about. So anyways, without any further ado, Lei, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, an honor to be on your podcast.
Pleasure's on mine. Oh, and I forgot, she's also written quite a few books, as a matter of fact, 5. And yeah, because she's got a tremendous message, and yeah, and that's one of the ways for her to share it. So again, I'm delighted to have you here today. Before we start, let's start with asking you, over and beyond what I just mentioned, tell us, for people who don't know you, who's Lei as a person, as a human being? We're going to talk about your business experiences that you just mentioned later on, but at the base, as a person, as a human being, as a woman, who's Lei?
Lei is not anybody really super special, although we're all special. My early life was not geared toward being somebody really big. In fact, I grew up in a family where being small was really encouraged, and it took me a long time to work out of that. Who am I now? I am a very, I dare say, loving soul who really loves the land, the people, the just life in form. I like to grow food when I can. I have a couple of pets that I dearly love also. It's just really all about enjoying life in form.
And being close to nature.
And being close to nature.
Absolutely. Wow. Beautiful. That's awesome. What I like to do usually first to start my shows, I'd like to ask a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know the person at the personal level as a human being. Ready?
Ready.
All right. As a person, Lei, what makes you happy?
The flower and the scent of the flower, the meow or the purring of a cat, the simple pleasures of life, a really good organic food. That's the kind of thing that makes me really happy.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. What makes you smile?
What makes me smile most is when I see a person who has been through just a devastating trauma and they have that aha moment where they finally break through and they come around, and that lights me up.
Absolutely. Perfect segue now. Let's take the happiness factor a couple of notches higher. What makes your soul set on fire? What makes your heart sing?
Genuine, loving connection to people.
Beautiful. Love that. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
People hurting each other, or the perception of people hurting each other.
What scares you?
Very little scares me anymore. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of living. Very little scares me.
Spiders, no?
Spiders, no.
Okay. Well, what would you say is your number one personal superpower?
To be able to harness the energy that has been given to come through me to be able to help or guide or encourage other people.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, you like traveling, right?
I would love to travel more, yes.
All right. Let me take you down a different type of traveling down memory line. Go back to when you're a kid growing up. You know, when we're kids, people around us, parents, teachers, family, always ask us, "Hey, Lei, what do you want to become when you grow up?" What was your answer to that question as a young girl?
I didn't have the capacity to be able to answer that question because I was too busy trying to survive and trying to help my family survive.
Okay. Growing up, what was your relationship with school? Did you love it or did you hate it?
It was an escape from my home reality.
Mm. What was your favorite subject in school?
I liked reading because
Mhm.
that again was a wonderful escape.
Oh, yes. And was there any subject that you could not stand at all?
I wished I was better at math.
Me too. Numbers put me to sleep and still do. Awesome. Now, what was your very first job?
My very first paying job, I was 13 and I was given a job in the school library
Do
to help support the family.
you remember how much you were getting paid on that first job?
I don't remember how much I was getting paid. I know I got free lunches and
Mhm.
whatever else went to, I never saw it.
Okay. Awesome. Now, let's talk about your path from the moment you left school to now. How would you describe it? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward, smooth sailing? Once you into one lane, you were set for life? Or was it more like a turns and twists, like a roller coaster with ups and downs?
It was more than that. It was one adventure after
Mhm,
another. One, uh, how do I deal with this now kind of event
mhm.
after another? And it was I can now see how it was a series of these. At the time, it just felt like, what more can you ask of me?
Yeah. Hmm. You know, there's a saying that says, change your story internally to change your story externally. And by that, I mean what we tell ourselves in our head all day long. So when you're at some of your lowest time in your life, how did you change what you were telling yourself inside in order to change your life outside? Did you do it through the help of friends, family, mentors, books, videos? Tell us the principle, the process you used to change your story internally to change your life externally.
Mostly it was books, videos, teachers, but not teachers that I necessarily had in front of me. It would be people like Ram Dass or,
Yeah.
you know, people that I could find a message in that could help me do that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Beautiful. Now, you mentioned that you had three NDEs. Tell us about, first of all, growing up, did you feel that you had special talents and skills, like in terms of, psychic abilities, or is that something that you had no idea? And once you had, it just appeared to you after your first NDE?
things happened throughout my life that I very quickly tried to hide inside, because growing up in a very strong Catholic family, I surely, as bad as my life was, or as bad as I perceived it to be, if you told me that because I had this ability, let alone use this ability, I was going to go to hell, which was much worse than my life, I was like, I'm out of here. I don't want anything to do with this. Then I would hide it.
Was there any in your family that had also those kinds of psychic abilities, or any, or had also other NDEs that you could talk to, share those, or no?
Nobody I could really talk to for the NDEs. I have had a sister who refused to fit the mold that that they tried to force us into, and she was kind of my role model. I also have those who came after me, my son, my granddaughter, they have it, but those are not people I could talk to. When I was a kid, I really didn't feel like there was anybody out there I could talk to. Like, I really felt like I was swimming across the ocean alone.
Tell us about your first ND. How did it happen? What was it, and how did it impact your life moving forward?
Well, I started having children early. I thought it was late. I was 3 years later than my mother, but I was 19 when I got pregnant and had my first child. And then I had the second one when I was 21. The second one he was active during pregnancy and such, but everything seemed to be fine. And then when I went into labor, he kept doing flip flops in my stomach, and the attendants would have to reach up inside of me, physically reach up inside of me, turn him around to try and keep him from getting caught in the cords. And this was so extremely painful that I clawed my fingernails into the wall to try and climb out of it. And so what came after that, I don't blame them at all. It wasn't a situation that lended itself to slow, easy decisions. It was act now. And after 2 days after he was born, I came down with a very high fever. At one point, I saw on the thermometer that the temperature read 111.
Wow.
And I know people say that's not possible, you would have died. To which I answer, I did. I was in the hospital, laying on the bed with tubes coming out of me, not moving at all. I mean, 111, you're not moving. And then for no apparent reason, in this quiet, peaceful abode, I sat up. Now, I didn't think at all, how did I do that at the time? I just sat up. And then I looked back at my back behind me, and there was my body sitting on the hospital bed.
Wow.
There's no emotion here. There's no what is going on or anything. There's just, oh. And then I floated out of my body into a dark tunnel. And it was pitch black. I mean, there's no seeing anything in this tunnel. And I floated through it, and it was like the greatest bliss, the greatest peace,
Wow.
love, non-judgment, just acceptance. It was the most beautiful. And I'm just like, this is wonderful. I've never felt this kind of love in my life. And I'm floating through it, and I get to this, what I perceived as a widening or room. Again, I can't see anything, so I don't know what it was. But I'm there, and it still feels wonderful. And I'm like, okay, I can stay here. This is wonderful. This is great. And then there was this voice, which I perceived as male, but I don't know. I mean, I would say that it's not one or the other, but that's how I perceived it. And it asked, do you want to come now? Without any judgment, without any emphasis, just, do you want to come now?
Did you hear the voice physically, or was it something you heard inside your head?
I can't, I heard it clearly, and it probably was inside my head.
Both. Okay. Wow.
but I perceived it very easily. Anyway, and at that moment, I kind of went into a little bit of shock. I'm like, oh, I have to make a decision. But I didn't think like that. It was just kind of a, oh. And I thought about my two kids who were now just newborn and 2 years old. And I just said to the voice, I can't, I need to raise my children. And then I've perceived a very gentle, very accepting, non-judgmental nod of a head. And I went back down the tunnel very fast and plopped back in my body, and the fever broke. And I was out of the hospital the next day.
Wow.
But I came out of it knowing that I had chosen to come back, that I had a reason to be here, and that I had a purpose in being here.
So you were fully conscious of during this
I
entire
was
process?
fully conscious through the entire thing.
Wow.
Well, no, my body was not fully conscious at all.
Sure.
It was gone. But I remember everything like it was yesterday.
Did you share that with people around you, or for example, your husband or the doctor?
Absolutely not. They would have thought I was crazy. They would have thought that I was hallucinating. They would have said that I was going to hell because that's stuff of the devil. No, I told nobody for many decades. I told nobody.
Wow. So how did that, so when you went back home after that to a newborn child, what was going on through your mind? How has that impacted your life moving forward from that moment on? Did it open your eyes to a new reality now that you saw what's on the other side? And basically, how did that impact your life moving forward from that moment on? Now that you know that there's nothing to be worried about death and all that, and
it did change things dramatically. I was no longer willing to put up with a lot of
oh yes,
nonsense that I would have put up with before. And because I was no longer willing to be a doormat, my then husband decided that I needed to be forced physically into being a quote good wife. And
what
so
does that
I
mean?
instead, huh?
What does that mean?
That means that he was physically abusive. He became physically abusive in trying to control me.
Oh no. Wow.
And he then decided that maybe if the only way to control me would be to physically abuse the boys. And I said no, and we left.
Wow.
So yeah, did it change my life? Yeah, it changed a lot.
So that was the first one, and you said you had three. What was the second one? And how
The
long after
second
was
one,
the second one?
the second one was generations, not generations. Well, I guess it could be. It's several decades later, and I'm now moved back to Hawaii. I've been through college, and I've moved back to Hawaii, and I'm working at a big box kind of retail store, and after going to a training, and I don't think it happened at the training, I think it actually happened after I got back. I came down with another high fever and was very much in bed. I mean, I was not moving again. And this was in the summer, and I had every coat, blanket, everything on top of me, and I was still cold. And I was there for a couple of, actually 3 days in this state. And I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I knew that I wasn't really there. And as I was sitting there on the bed, having nothing to drink, having a high fever, nothing to eat for these days, a thought kept coming to me. It'd be so easy to step over that line,
Wow.
which I ignored at first. And then it really would be so easy to step over that line.
And by then your children had grown up, right?
By then, yeah, my children are grown up and completely out of the house. And so it's just me and my husband, my new husband. Well, not new, but it was my husband at the time,
Yeah.
who I'm still with. Anyway, and So it became obvious that I was being asked to make a choice. And so it's not so much in an NDE because I can't say I really went anywhere, but I was surely given the choice. And I thought about it and I thought, this is not the way. If I'm going to live, I need to get a drink of water.
Mm.
And so I didn't get up. I kind of rolled out of the bed and crawled to, I mean, literally crawled along the floor to the kitchen to get a drink of water and come back to bed. And then the healing after that took about 4 weeks before I could go back to work.
Wow. So,
But again, I'd made a choice. I was here and I knew I still had stuff that I needed to be doing and things that reasons why I was still here.
wow. Did you at the time
And
say, go ahead? Go ahead, go ahead.
and what came from that one was a clearer sense that things, statements, people would be and I'd had this one since the first one, but it became more pronounced. People would come to me and ask about things, and I would help them work it out. And as I'm talking, I would say, average every day to me, it was nothing astounding things, but it came through me with a little bit of a power, and I can feel this power when it comes through me. And it, when it does, I know that whatever it is that's coming out is exactly what they need to hear. And they will verify that after I say it. And it
Who's
might be
they?
something as simple as everything's going to work out, everything's going to be okay, you're going to make it through this, which doesn't sound astounding, but for whatever reason, the words would be and are exactly what the person needs to hear
At
at
that
that
specific
moment.
moment. Yes, that is key. Wow. So, in between those two incredible experiences, did you feel that your psychic abilities were enhanced or were awakened or?
I still didn't pay a whole lot of attention to them. I was still trying to fit the mold, be the person that they say I'm supposed to be, do what I'm supposed to. Uh, I know these things are happening, and I know they have been happening for years.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, there's no point in doing anything to this. What am I going to do with it? You nobody out there understands these things. I can't make it into anything like a business to make money because that's just not happening. And so I just kind of let it be. And if I could help somebody, great. And if it, otherwise I was just living my life.
Wow. And then you mentioned, yeah, the third one. Tell us about the
Yes.
last one.
This one is the critical one. This is where my life changed. And again, it runs around a high fever. It was the last days of August 2019, and the time is critical on this. And I started feeling like I wasn't feeling very well, like I'm maybe coming down with something, but we don't stop. We just keep going. And so I just kept going. And then I was in a meeting with a friend and some other people, and there were some cans of drinks like sodas or something like that. And I had one, and I noticed I could not open it. My fingers would not open the can. And I thought, that's really strange. But my friend said, here, let me, and she opened it for me. Okay, fine. And then as I took a drink of it, I'm like, this tastes kind of funny. This doesn't quite taste right. I wonder what's wrong with it. But I didn't think much about it. And then on September 2nd, my husband and I were going to go to the grocery store. And I wasn't feeling too well, so I said, you get ready. I'm just going to take a little nap while you get ready. Just, wake me up in 15 minutes when you're ready. Well, 2 hours later, I woke up with another high fever and like immense pain all over my body. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. And this one also, the fever lasted for 2 days. And it wasn't taken, I wasn't moved anywhere, I didn't get taken to the doctor. But I was I was not here. This time I went somewhere. I was in a place that was kind of a gray, brown, pink, orange color, very foggy, indistinct, nothing, you can't see anything. But I could hear as I'm there. There were lots of voices, and I don't know exactly who they were, if they were ancestors, if they were, I don't know. But I heard a whole bunch of voices, and they're chanting to me over and over, "You have done what you came here to do. You have
Wow.
done what you came here to do." And I'm just bebopping along because this one's got that same blissful feeling and this same wonderful feeling. I'm like, okay, I could stay here forever. And you have done what you came here to do. What? And then I instantly went back into my body with the question, if I've done what I came here to do, why am I still here? And that's when everything changed for me. I started thinking, if I've done what I came here to do, maybe I don't have very much longer here. Maybe they gave me an opportunity to tie up loose ends and get things together. So I started working on an if I'm gone plan, what needs to be done, so to make it easier for those who stay after me. Part of that plan was, how do I die well? And I started studying Ram Dass, but just a few days after I got lucid again, and I'm still now so weak that I can barely move. And the doctors eventually said they think it very well could have been early COVID, and that what I continue to have, though it cannot be tested, might be long COVID. But it took away the ability to be the go-getter that I used to be, and it changed my life into what it is now, which is someone who has done a lot of studying. And this was before the pandemic started. I was given the opportunity to practice what the pandemic would be like before it started.
Oh.
So I could help people who were having difficulty with handling it as they were going through it.
Wow. That's incredible. So how do you, now looking back was all these three.
Mm-hmm.
How would you connect the three together? Do you see any?
They don't connect yet. They didn't connect until after the SD. And then I was like, I could look back and I'm like, oh, this has not been 4 events. This has been one very elongated event. Most people who have an NDE or an SDE, they have one and they get the message and it changes their life and they move on from it. I had to have 4. And I think the reason why is because I came here as what they call a transformer. I came here to help other people transform their life-changing traumas. And in order to do that, I had to experience everything in this life so that I could be able to have the foundation to be able to help people. And that includes all of the stuff I went through as a kid.
Absolutely. A transformer. That's an interesting. Tell us more about that. What is exactly a transformer?
Transformer is someone who helps other people, including themselves, or possibly people who are no longer here, or ancestral trauma. Any kind of trauma helps people transform their traumas so that the traumas can no longer hold them back and they can move forward in their lives.
That'd also be, no, that's not it. No, okay. And then you mentioned something else last week that I had never heard about that really blew my mind away. And that is having a shared death. Tell us, first of all, what is a shared death? And tell us your example that you experienced.
A shared death experience is where someone who is living and who continues to be living shares the crossing of someone else who is, maybe they know them well, maybe they're a relative, maybe they're a friend, but it's somebody that they are connected to who is passing. But this other person shares that journey
Mhm.
with them as they are crossing over.
And they may or may not be in the same physical location. It might be even a different part of the world, but they still, because they connect at the soul level, they can feel the pain. They can feel everything as if they were experiencing it themselves, right?
Yes, but every one of them is different. But there's in reality, there is no distance, there is no time. I mean, we're
Yes.
all completely interlinked. So yes, in my case, I was like 3,500 miles away from the person who was passing.
So we're each basically a drop of the same ocean,
Yes.
in a sense, of the source. Okay.
And the energy travels through all of the drops. Yes.
Wow. Awesome. So now share us your exact sheer death that you went through. You told me last week, and I was like, wow, I was spellbound. So tell us about that.
So I realized last summer, I'm like, this relationship with my mother has been holding me back for all of my life. And I really need to do something. I need to find a way to heal it. But I had no idea how. And then I heard someone else mention, someone that I know mention, that she had a similar past to mine. And she had figured out how to see her parents as loving her and bringing her the foundation she needed to be who she is today. And I thought, that's amazing, but that's not happening, is it? And then I let it roll around in me for a little while, and I thought, I don't know how to do this. And so I did one of those things that we do sometimes, and I asked whatever, anything that's out there, the universe, I just asked, how do I do this? How do I heal this?
Mhm.
And I was given the picture of a theater, and and all of the seats are empty, but I'm sitting in the middle of the theater, and I'm the only one in the theater. And then I'm also shown that I am the director, I am the actor, I am the person doing the lights and the sound up in the sound booth. I'm all of it. And I'm the writer. And then as I'm coming to all of these different pieces of this story, I watch my story being played out on the stage. And I can see in this that my mother loved me enough to choose to come into this life and do all of the horrible things she did so that I could have the foundation necessary to be the transformer that I am.
Totally.
And then I realized also that we both loved each other so much to do this so that I could help other people heal their traumas. And to me, this was a huge revelation, and it took a gigantic burden off my shoulders. And I was able to live in joy and peace and just have flowing energy. And that lasted until about the middle of December.
Last
And
December?
then not last December.
Wow.
And last December, in the middle of December, I'm going along peacefully doing what I do and helping my people, and for no reason at all, I got this angsty, jittery, overwhelmed, frustrated, just really, I was physically like shaking. And I had no idea what this is. Why would this be? I can't. And it continued. And then and I'm not kidding about this. This is not to be cliche. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it isn't. It is what it is. On the third day, it all lifted and became joy, bliss, freedom, love, even more so maybe than when I had had my NDEs.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is wonderful. I can, oh, wow. And a couple hours later, my brother called me. Now I have to give a little on the backstory on this, because all of this is stuff I hadn't thought about at all when this happened. But 15 years earlier, my mother had killed my brother's former wife, and she had gone to prison for it for the last 15 years of her life. We had no contact. We had nobody went to visit her. There was nothing there. But the institution had my brother's name as a contact because he was, quote, related to the case, even though he wasn't involved in what happened. So I'm going along in this beautiful feeling, and my brother calls and he says, our mother passed. And so I told him what I had just been through for the last 3 days. And he said, they called me 3 days ago and they told me that she was in bad shape and she wasn't expected to live. And I realized at that moment that I had shared her crossing, although I had no idea what it was at the time. I had to do the research afterwards to figure out, oh, this is actually a thing. Look at that. But now I've shared her crossing. And at the time, I talked to my brother and I told him about it, and I didn't feel any grief. There was no grief at all. There was just joy and overwhelming love and freedom from all of the pain that she had been in when she was here. In fact, right after when I was still on the phone with my brother, our friends that were visiting called my husband and asked if we wanted to go out for coffee. And he came in and asked me, and I said, sure, we can do that. And we went out for coffee and we had a good time and we talked, and my mother was never mentioned. And I was not just there, I was joyful and shining, and nobody knew what was going on except me. And so that's what the shared death experience was like. Since then, I have had contact with my mother all the time, and she had asked me to heal both the trauma that she had put on me and the trauma that she had gone through. And I went through that ceremony and I did it. And so it's an ongoing kind of thing. I have a better relationship and it's a loving relationship with my mother now that I was not able to have when she was living.
Fascinating. Wow. Couple of questions that came to mind. First of all, you said there was no grief when your brother gave you the news that your mother passed. Was there no grief because of your past relationship with her, or was it because of you knowing what awaits on the other side and what you just went through, and you saw that, hey, she's in a much better place there than she was ever here in even in jail? Or was it a combination of the two?
You see, the shared death experience was not just that little piece.
Mm-hmm.
All of the healing of our past relationship that I had done with, the theater and all of that was part of the shared death experience. It was the precursor to it. And it was necessary so that I could go through that and not feel the grief. Because, yeah, I watched my sister pass, over 10 years ago, almost 15 years ago now. And my sister, I grieved very hard for her. I don't discount anybody's grief or what they go through to get through their grief. But I can see in the future where anybody's passing there will be no grief, because all people will understand they are now in a much better place. They are now in their eternal self, and actually passing from here is a rebirth into being your ultimate self.
Mm-hmm. So when you said you were, absolutely, that's beautiful. When you said that you experienced, you lived the passing of your mother, ascending of your mother, and this shared death experience, were you experiencing that while you were awake, or only when you were sleeping, or was it more intense when you were awake? Was it more intense when you were sleeping?
It was constant for the actual event. It was 3 days of constantly being in this angst, the angst, and I was physically jittery as if I'd had too much coffee, and I don't drink coffee. So, and was it physical? Yes, it was physical. Was it emotional? Yes, it was emotional. It was everything, night and day, for 3 days, or on the third morning. So it's actually 2 days.
Did you have any vision of what your mother was going through, or any dreams of during those days of your mother coming into your dreams, or a universe, God, source, whatever, coming to you and telling you, hey, get ready, or any of those things?
Nothing like that at all, which makes mine a little bit different because I didn't have any of that. But I do know that like near-death experiences, shared death experiences are very different. And because I'd had no contact with her, I wasn't even, my brother and I, even though we talked and we're very cordial, we never talked about her. He undoubtedly had some very strong emotions about the whole situation. She killed the mother of his 2 children.
And when you saw what was really, when you understood what was really going on, your mother was basically helping you, activating you, so to speak, to awaken to your full mission of being a transformer. When you understand, you forgave her, but when you shared that to your brother, did he also come to a conclusion that he also has to look at this from a higher perspective, and ultimately to forgive her?
I asked him, I told him all about it. I've shared everything with him, and I've
Sure.
said that she really wants us to heal and to live our best lives, to move beyond all of this. I cannot do that for him. He has to make those choices.
Sure. What did he tell you? Was he open to it, or did he completely push away even the thought of it?
I think he's got so many muddled emotions about the whole thing. I think he has a lot to work through yet. And I think for him, when they called and said that she had passed, it was the beginning of another part of his journey.
Mm. So was it after this that you started to really embrace your full mission in this life, which is to help other people who have been through traumatic experiences to overcome and live it and live their full dream? So was it something that you were already doing before that?
I was living my life, doing the very best I could to help people who had been through trauma. And I've been helping people for quite some time. But this was the culmination. My story is now complete, even though I'm still here. I have stuff to do still. I'm still here, and I have people to help and guide, and I'm not going anywhere at this moment, but my story is complete. Because it's now complete, I can put the story back away. It's there. I know it's there. I don't have to live in it day after day because it's complete. I can close the book and I can put it on the shelf.
So you said you help people overcome that. Are you in some way, shape, or form also helping someone as close to you as your brother to help him overcome whatever he's facing and he has to overcome?
if he's willing. None of us can help or guide a person if the person does not ask.
Does he know what that is what you're doing, what you specialize in doing?
Yes, and he said he wanted to do it, and we just haven't done it yet, so I have to wait till he's ready.
That's a good sign. Or you can just also reach out to him to say, I'm here for you whenever you're ready. Just as
I
a
have,
reminder.
I have.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow. So now let's talk about your business. Tell us about exactly what you do and how you're using all those gifts, all those incredible insight that you've had to help other people.
I help um, as kind of a side story. When I came to the islands, we came back to the islands because I was born here. Uh, we came just before the eruption of the 2018 eruption of the Kilauea volcano, the Lower East Rift Zone, that covered 700 homes and displaced over 1,000 people. And I was at the what we called the hub during that entire time as they were coming in with that completely shocked, dazed, distant look. And I helped them to get back. I was there so they could talk. They call it a calmer. I was there as somebody who was there to help them with whatever emotional needs they might have, or if there's anything else I can do to help them find what they need so that they can get through this better. That's what I did for all of these people. But I've also helped other people, like uh, a brand new widow who just lost her very beloved husband and is just shattered and has nowhere to go. I helped her to find her way back to a new life. Or a man who's working in a regular job, but really doesn't want to be, oh, well, it pays the bills. I mean, we stay with these things, right? We just, that's good enough, right? But it's not good enough. Not if you
Oh,
have something else you're supposed to be doing. And
sure.
he knew that there was something he was supposed to be doing. And he tried to ad lib live it in his off time.
Hmm.
What he was supposed to be doing is flying, but he didn't believe he could get back to it. And so we went through the process step by step by step and got him not only back into flying, but he became an air ambulance pilot.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a pretty big transformation there.
Sure.
I
Beautiful.
also, I use the same process on me to get from being on the mainland to being back in Hawaii.
So what is your
It's all the
process?
same.
What is your process? How do you do that?
Well, the process is, first of all, where am I right now? You got to know where you're at. And where do I want to go? Okay, now you need to figure that out. Now we're going to do it step by step. In the case of the pilot flying, first thing we had to do is get him to fly a plane again to see where he was at. What skills does he have? What does he need to work on? Where does he need to go from here? Step one. And the other half of that, the bigger part of it in almost every case, is dealing with the limiting beliefs that we all have that keep us from doing these things. Oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, I can't do that. I can't afford that. Oh, I can't, whatever it happens to be. Got to get beyond those. And that is the bigger part of anybody living out their potential. And so we just take it step by step and keep going. Because of this, I don't have what people call a package. Everyone's going to take it on their own time and do it. Everyone's going to have a different amount of time that they're going to need to get through whatever it is. So I help them along the way and guide them. I don't consider myself so much a helper as a guide. I'm there to help them see. I'm a light that shines on their path so they can see what is the next step forward. what is the next step forward, and what is the next step forward.
Beautiful. Just back a little bit. Did you share your stories of NDEs with your brother or any other person in your family now, decades after?
I have shared with my brother. He knows pretty much everything about me now, but he's the only one who really talks to me. The rest of them are all still caught in their own story and their own beliefs of what we're supposed to do and should do, and what is right and wrong, which of course there is no right and wrong.
Sure.
But they're very caught in that, and that's their choice. I can't do anything about that.
How did your brother react when you told him about your NDEs?
He didn't, especially when I told him, about the shared death experience, he kind of vacillated between, the old way and the new way, and so I could kind of see him just turning things over in his head over and over, like, okay. But we have grand conversations now about all sorts of things that the rest of the family would probably go, what are they talking about?
You guys lost your marbles or what? What are you smoking?
Both of you are crazy. Yeah.
So what did you share with them first? Do you share with them first your story, your experience of the shared death, or did you tell them first about your NDEs first and then your shared death?
Well, sometime after his kids became motherless, I shared my first NDE with him because I figured he needed a little empowerment. He needed to know that there would be a beyond for them. He needed a step. And at the time, he was like, oh yeah, yeah, okay. It takes a little time for people to adjust to these things. As I've heard it said, you go into a room and you say, this is what I've had, and it clears the room.
Big time,
and
yes.
I'm kind of used to that. So I tell people the stories, and I allow them. I'm careful who I tell them to.
Sure.
First of all, I found that it's not good to tell doctors stories, things like.
I wonder why that is. They should be the first one to know and the one to know the best, if they're real doctors.
But I did tell my brother, and I did tell him, and I tell a lot of people now. I mean, I'm beyond caring what they think about me. I'm beyond caring if they, if their experience doesn't meet with this, fine. They don't have to take it. But the information is there for whenever they are ready.
Absolutely.
And so I tell my story a lot now, and I've told my story piece by piece. I've told it to my brother, and he's now okay with it. I mean, he understands that this is my experience. He's never had any of these experiences, and he did not experience anything when our mother passed. But I share it with him. I've shared it. I have shared every single detail with my son and with my granddaughter, and these stories have been instrumental in helping them to get to where they need to go.
Yes, at the right time, they will, they will understand and they will be receptive to it. They will be open to it. I was just having this conversation earlier today with another person that, everything we hear, we already heard it many, many times, but sometimes we just need to hear it that at the right time with the right tone, and that's when it's going to really hit us, and we can really pay attention to it, because that's when we're just ready. We're in the right place, right space, and that's when it's going to really be not just impactful but transformational. It's going to open our eyes to what it really means and how to how it's going to really affect and impact our lives. So that's beautiful.
And it's also, even if they hear it and they're not ready for it, it sits
Yeah,
in there and marinates until they are ready for it. So
yeah.
that when they are finally ready for it, they can, it comes up in them. They don't pull it up, but it comes up and says, hey, you remember this?
If anyone was at an instinctive, very not violent, but opposing reaction to it, like as soon as you start talking, say, no, I don't want to hear it. You lost your marble. You're crazy. Change the topic, or to just leave the room.
Yeah, there are people like that who don't, who there's still a lot of people out there who believe that the only thing in the world that's real is five senses. Um, that's their perception, that's their experience. I can't change that.
You know,
Okay.
one thing that's really powerful is that, you know, religions, and I'm not just talking about Christianism, Islam, Judaism, all of that. They all say one thing: if you do good, you go to heaven. If you do bad, you're gonna burn in hell. But then spirituality tells us and teaches us that there's no judging on the other side. You're welcome no matter what you did, with the most amazing unconditional love ever. So how is that? I mean, I guess I'm asking is, I don't even know what the questions I'm asking is. That the question I'm asking is, once people really realize that, I mean, how can religion, what I'm saying, how can religion not fight this, but actually embraces that so that they can elevate the impact and importance of their message? I'm not saying we good, you guys are not good. If you don't follow what we teach you, what preach you, you're gonna go to heaven, you're gonna burn in at the stake for forever. No, what can religion do to embrace that? Hey, there's more to that than just either if you're good, you go to heaven. If you do bad, you go to hell. But instead, to teach us that there is more to life than what we are, just like you said, the five senses, and you will be, you know, ultimately you will be received with open arms without being judged with pure unconditional love. Because the moment we realize that, and that's going to have a tremendous impact in this side of the world too. It's going to make a lot of people change their approach, their focus, their and everything they do for the right, for the better one, better for the good of all of us.
Yeah. And the answer to that as to what the religions can do, in every religion, there are people who have, either through experience or through what they needed to do, they have come to the knowledge of spirituality. They have managed to work through all of the dogma to get to that kernel. And the kernel in every one of those religions is exactly the same. And if they listen to those people who these people in each of the religions and beyond just the religion, they become the way showers, and they are out there with the message already. And some of them, they're called, they're saints, or they're, ascended masters, or there's a number of different terms for them. These people are still there, and they don't necessarily push aside the religion. Some of them even stay in it. There's a number of different examples of people who did that. And then they have followings, and they usually have some sort of offshoot, not offshoot, but the word's not coming to me, but they have little parts within the religion that are following this particular person because this person has something, even if they're staying in the religion. And the religions, if they really want to serve the people and move beyond the dogma that has been created to control people, they need to look at these people who have done the work, who have become saints, masters, whatever you want to call them. And they need to, hey, instead of letting you just be off by the side, why don't we all just talk? And some of the leaders have done this already, especially in Buddhism. Buddhism has done some of the Buddhist leaders have done a fair job, I mean, a really good job of pulling in the different leaders and saying, hey, you know what? We're all really doing the same thing at the end of the day.
Okay.
And that's what it's all about.
But unfortunately, the bottom line of it's all religion is not about, it's all about control. Control and power and greed. And it's a lot that need to be changed in order for those people, especially those at the very top, to really do things for the betterment of everyone and not just to keep them under the thumb and control them and all that. So,
But I would say that as we watch the other, quote, institutions or systems in the world that are based in those old ways crumble and fall, and they are, which is what's scaring so many people right now. They see it falling and they're like, ah! As all of that falls away, there will be left, what will be left is this kernel, this nugget, these people, that's us, who are the ones who are like, there is a way forward. There is a way to work through all of this mess, and there is a way to get to where we need to be with systems that serve all of the people equally.
one thing that my biggest issue with religion is that they all believe that their way is the best way. Like if you ask a Christian, say, Christian is the best, is the way to go. A Jewish person, oh, Judaism is the way. A Muslim, oh, Islam is the best, is the only way to go. If you don't believe that, you're not good. With what I've understood and what I've seen with my own eyes is that, and I saw a quote that really exemplifies and really, summarize that, and that is religion divides, spirituality unites. Spirituality doesn't care about what you look like, white, blue, green, black, whatever, doesn't care what religion they believe in. At the end of the day, there's only one God, one source. And just like we mentioned earlier, we all drops of the same ocean. Just like look at, for example, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean. Sure, it's massive. This drop that touches pretty much all the corners of the world, but it's still the same essence, the same water, H2O, the same drop. The drop in the Atlantic is the same as a drop in the Pacific or in the Mediterranean or in the Arctic or whatever, Indian Ocean. It's all the same.
And there are no boundaries between it.
Yes. And the moment we understand that, that's when we can really come together, all of us, as one species, as brothers and sisters, regardless of, anything else that society has tried to put inside to divide us even further.
Yes.
That's the ultimate goal, ultimate dream for all of us. What can each and every single one of us can do towards that beautiful goal?
Love each other, love, and I know that it's hard it's becoming very cliche to say that. How does one do that? Okay. You have a neighbor and the neighbor needs a little help with something, anything.
Whatever, yeah.
Help them. Maybe they've got an elder person who needs a little food. Okay, let's give them some food. Let's come together as a community. If we come together as a community, and this is a worldwide community, and we are helping each other as community, as brothers and sisters, as one, the world will, the stuff that is going on now, there won't be a place for it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I haven't watched news in 5 years. I've decided not to participate in their masquerade and all this craziness they're trying to portray around us. That's why I left the country. I'm leaving the country again because I don't want to participate in all of that and none of this nonsense. When people ask me, "Oh, are you afraid of COVID?" So what COVID? That doesn't exist for me because I refuse to take part of it. We all have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But as to whether you specifically personally will make that choice, now that is your call.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's.
And I've found for me, I'm really energy sensitive.
Mhm.
I cannot keep up with. I cannot watch that stuff because it's too hard for me. I feel
Yeah.
it. I know what's going on. It's not that I don't. I'm trying to hide under a rock or anything.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
But I don't need to feel it any more than I already do.
There's enough negative energy, negative people around you to tell us and remind you all the time what's going on, that I don't need to spend 10 hours a day and go to the screen TV to the news. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we look at what we can, like podcasts like yours and such, we can see the good that's going on in the world.
Yes.
We can concentrate and we can participate in that instead. And that makes a whole lot more sense and a whole lot more difference than trying to change what is already changing.
We mentioned something that if you all come together, we can create a new community. That's exactly the premise of my podcast, my brand, my business, everything I do. My brand is called Leaders with a Heart. One part of my branding is the 1 + 1 = 11. Two people coming in math, 1 + 1 is 2, but two people coming together with same vision, same dream, same whatever, they exponentially explode. Like not a single individual can change the world by themselves, even if they might be a billionaire. But if each and every single one of us, we do our own little part in our own little circle of influence, and that person goes on to, pay it forward and help someone else and so on and so forth, then we can create a ripple effect. And that's what podcast is about. When I bring in my guests, for example, you sharing your powerful, inspiring, empowering, goosebump-inducing story. If you're sharing your story, we can inspire just one person to do good, and that person goes on to help someone else and so on and so forth. Then before long, we will create together an unstoppable ripple effect around the world that's going to change the vibration, frequency, energy of this planet toward a more positive direction. That's what we need now more than ever. So this is that is the principle, the base, the core of my podcast, my business, everything I do. It's about inspiring. My motto is inspiring entrepreneurs to do good with their businesses. Sure, we all need to make money, but let's do so in a way that is meaningful, impactful, purposeful. For me to win doesn't mean I have to screw you. Doesn't mean for you to lose. I win, you win, he wins, she wins, they win. And this way, we will all be in it. We will all be, helping each other, and we'll all be friends, not just customers and clients, but actual friends. And that's what the ultimate way to be. So when you said that, really, it resonated with me and what I do, because that's exactly what I'm all about.
And it goes back to, the people have a little trouble understanding this one, but if you think about it, it's true. 1 divided by 1 does not equal 1. 1 divided by 1 = 2.
Yes, that is so true as well. That's a good one. Yes, good reminder. Indeed. Powerful, powerful. Now, back to your business. How are you getting your clients?
I do a lot of podcasts. I have books, like you mentioned in the early part. I have a new book coming out shortly that is called There Was No Fear. And the tagline is the transformational power of near-death and shared death experiences. And it should be out, I hope, by the end of this month, end of May. If not, it'll be in early June. And I do everything that I can to reach the people that I would like to reach where they're at. I know there's a lot of people out there who say, well, you have to do it through an email list. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you do it through podcasts. Maybe you do it through, that's part of stretching the boundaries, seeing what works. If it doesn't work, try something else. And making this, if we set ourselves into this is the only way, well, that's the way that was in the past. That's not necessarily the only way. And from what I've seen, the younger people love podcasts. They love to have it given to them in small bites that are easy to digest. Don't give me a 400-page book. Give me one that's, 60. I can do that.
I agree.
And so I do my books. The last 2, the first one is Dream It, See It, Live It. That one is out already, and it's 60 pages. And it goes through the whole process, step by step by step, as to how you can change your life in single 1-page snippets.
What is that book called? What is the first book called?
Dream It, See It, Live It.
And are your books available on Amazon?
Yes, they are.
All right.
Oh, and
We'll-
except the last one, and it will be when it gets
Okay.
published.
We'll put all the links in the show notes. You can send that to me after. So that's book number 1. What is book number 2?
Well, that's actually book number 4 and 5.
Okay.
The others came before, and they're different kinds of books. There's I Didn't Choose This Mess, which is a story of how we do make choices, but it's in a fictional format, and it's a little bit longer because I wrote that one some time back. Then there's a couple of them that came out of the 2018 eruption. There's the story of the eruption, and that one is called the 2018 eruption. Well, there's a 2018 eruption timeline. That's the kind of a picture book, and it's not written like a story. It's like the little events of what happened each day. After the eruption started to wane and people started trying to heal, I realized they needed to have a healing tool, and they didn't have this healing tool. So I set out, because I'd been in the hub all that time, to put in a form that they could see the events that had happened day by day, and they could place themselves in it, and they could say, oh yeah, when that happened, and this happened here. So they could start healing. And that one is more of a picture book with the timeline, the details of the timeline written out in it. And then there's also the story of that written out, so that, like, I had one guy who bought the book so that he could read it with his daughter, and so she could understand better what had happened during that time. And so those are a lot of the books that I've already published. And then I've got these other 2. And I have another one that's a children's book about, it's a much younger children's book that is going to be coming out about transforming through life.
Beautiful. That's amazing. You know, we've all been given a gift, and now we need to find out what is the best way for us to share that gift. Some people like me, they do it through podcasting. You do it through both podcasting and books. I also do it through books. I have my own books now. But at the end of the day, it's all about sharing those gifts, those lessons or nuggets with other people, and you're doing it. So I salute you for that. Now, the last question I ask my guests, and that's my favorite question to ask, and that is, what is the smallest thing you've done that has had the greatest, deepest, most profound positive impact on both your life and business? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing. For me, for example, has been starting my podcast. What about you, Lei?
Writing the books, writing the last 2 books, especially, well, these last 2 these are the transforming books. And so writing these 2 is the culmination of my purpose of being here.
Wow, beautiful. And if someone wants to reach out to you and connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Well, there's the email, which is lei@handletheshift.com. There is also my website, which is handletheshift.com. I'm on LinkedIn under my name, which is Lei Mohr, Leimohr. And there's also Facebook, which again is under my name.
Okay, we'll put that on the show notes. You can send that to me and I will put it in the show notes. And before we finish, I want to ask you a series of rapid fire questions on advices. Ready?
Ready.
All right. What would you say has been so far the best piece of advice you've received?
Love everyone, because we're all part of one whole.
Absolutely. Love that. What has been so far the worst piece of advice you received?
You can't do that. They'll not like you for it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Imagine that you were blessed with a time machine and you can go back in time and sit face to face with an 18-year-old Lei. What is the number one piece of advice you would give to her, knowing all that you know now?
Know that it's all a timeline, and that you are going to make it through this, and you're going to thrive from this.
Beautiful. Love that. Now, do you have your own podcast?
I don't have my own podcast, but I have been on a number of other people's podcasts. And to me, that's the way for me. One of the things that got taken away from me was my physical strength. So for me to be able to keep up with the demands of doing my own podcast is more than I'm allowed to do.
All right. Now imagine that you had your own podcast today, and today you're interviewing the most special person in the world, which is yourself. What's the first question that you want to ask yourself? Don't think too much, but this first question comes to your mind.
How did you manage to get through all of that when you didn't have any support?
And what's your answer?
Sheer determination, sheer, okay, there's not a better word for it, stubbornness.
Sometimes we need to be relentless. Absolutely. All right. Listen, Lei, it's been an absolute pleasure, honor talking to you for the past hour and a half. And we talked for about almost over an hour and a half last time because it was such a beautiful conversation. So 3 hours in total over 2 weeks. Love that. We can do many more episodes, you and me, because you have so many bits and pieces of wisdom to share. We're probably going to do another one in the future. But for now, I salute you. You're a true leader with heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence, your impact, with your smile, with everything you're doing. Stay safe. Stay awesome. God bless you, my friend. Take care. Talk to you very soon.
Thank you too.
Very welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.